Welcome to Easily Entertained. My name is Bryson Olson, and here we talk about all the good things of entertainment. You saw the title. You've probably been watching the show too. We are talking about Arcane, which in my opinion is the best TV show ever made. Some of just the best content, like entertainment-wise, I think that has ever been made. I'm sad we only get 2 seasons, but goddamn, they were so good. I want to talk about them. And so before we get into the actual discussion, let's break it down how we're going to talk about it real quick. Arcane was very clever in how they structured their episodes and how they released them, so I'm going to talk about them in that way. They used the 3-act structure for it, which is fantastic. And they kind of use it twice. So Act 1 is setup, Act 2 is confrontation, and Act 3 is resolution. This is how each season is structured, and it's released in 3 acts with 3 episodes for each. And each of the 3 episodes also kind of follows this rundown a little bit, the setup, confrontation, and resolution. Not always exactly as you would think, but kind of lines up a little bit. And resolution kind of begins the setup for a lot of the future episodes for most of the early stuff. But as such, I am going to talk about them in the way they released in those 3 acts. And if you want to skip around to any particular act or chapter, whatever, you can go around and do so. Here are those time codes. You can do that when you want. Okay, now you know. Let's go. Where it all began, Act 1. This is where we get introduced to the 2 main storylines that will eventually merge and diverge and go all over the place again and again throughout the series and set the path for a lot of things. But this act, this is where Arcane truly began. The main story, I think, is that of the 2 sisters, Vi and Powder, who were orphaned due to an off-screen war between Piltover and the Undercity of Zaun. And you aren't even really told that there was a war that went on until a little bit later in, I believe, this act, because Vander talks about it. But instead, all you get is the aftermath of a battle of the war on a bridge, showing the 2 sisters pretty much at their youngest point, walking on the bridge between the 2 cities. They are seeing all these dead people, their dead parents, and it establishes these 2 big main characters as well as their supporting character, who is their adoptive father, Vander, and he's also very present in this act, which is why they kind of show him. Setup. See where I'm going with this? And it establishes this ongoing conflict between the 2 areas, Piltover and Zaun. And this becomes a very big story beat as the series goes on, and it is present throughout the entire thing and just continues to manifest itself greater and greater as you go on throughout the series. So now that our main characters are good and traumatized just from like the first 30 seconds of the series, as all good characters are, you got to traumatize them at least a little bit. We get a time jump to show us they have learned the ways of surviving in the underground. They break into a lab and steal some stuff and make it back without being caught or really anything too consequential. And they get into a little fight, win because they're awesome, but they lose their loot. You got to have them not win everything. This episode, I think, just does a whole lot to set up our main storyline. While we don't get like all the conflicts that we will in the future, it does a lot just at the beginning. We get our main characters, who we hope will be just fine. The conflicts between the different areas of Piltover, you have the hardships of the Undercity, and essentially you also get to be shown the rules of the underground. Perfect. That's our setup. Getting a whole lot of understanding out of the way and making sure we care about the characters from day one. They all have interesting personalities. They're all very well developed, and no character is really one-dimensional. Even side characters that you see for 1 or 2 settings or scenes, they all have characteristics to them, and they're not just one-dimensional. It's fantastic. The level of detail is amazing. And also, on top of that, holy shit, this world has so much lore. And I don't play League of Legends because that game sucks. I've tried to play it. It's not fun. But anyways, it's a whole lot of stuff going throughout this season. And of course, the animation fantastic. It's like this painterly illustrated style. Oh, it's so good. We love it so much. Anyways, as we carry on, we get our main side story as well, which deals with Hextech, a controlled form of magic kind of through technology, or in this world's terms, the Arcane, which will set the ground for so many conflicts in the future and brings in our main story pretty often as well. They kind of get intertwined a lot, but I feel like the main story is definitely about the sisters. We also get introduced to the main villain of this season, Silco. Oh my gosh, he is such a brilliantly written villain. He's so good. He has his own little arc and character development, and you learn a bit about his backstory and what he truly cares about. But along with Silco comes essentially the antithesis to Hextech, Shimmer, which is a potion that kind of grants its user like sort of magical abilities. Not entirely. It just makes them really strong or fast. Like it gives them abilities, but it can also lead to a lot of addiction, which causes different conflicts later in the series. It just keeps progressing. We also find out that Silco and Vander are brothers and essentially competing for leadership in the Undercity. Vander being the more benevolent, powerful leader, and Silco wanting to seize control in order to fight against the elites in Piltover. He doesn't think they should lay down like dogs. Instead, they should be their own separate nation. And he kind of does that in that typical mob boss type fashion where he runs a bunch of gangs and stuff. And it becomes more so later in the season. But he's still very smart and picks his battles. He's not like your average like fighter class. He is a very intelligent, sly kind of character. And, you know, we'll see. Maybe I'll do a Silco analysis video in the future. I know a ton of people have done that already, so, you know, it would go along with others. But he's just a cool villain. I think it'd be fun to talk about him more. But anyways, now we got the conflict between the Undercity and, I mean, you have the conflict within the Undercity as well, and you have the conflict between the Undercity and Topside. Okay. So how do we lead this into the next act while also providing some sort of conclusion for this one? Oh, I know. We're going to break up our main characters. The conflict at the end does a whole lot for the overall series. Powder is still very young, so when Vander is kidnapped by Silco around episode 2, and Vi goes after him, she leaves Powder behind, despite her wanting to help. Vi is doing it with good intentions because she doesn't want Powder to get hurt, but it also causes some like abandonment issues and stuff, and then Powder tries to go anyways, and especially when things go awry, she sets off her own little bomb. But while it does help, it kills their kind of adoptive brothers, Milo and Clagger, as well as eventually kind of leading to the death of Vander. A little bit more indirectly because he takes Shimmer and then kind of takes a blow from fire and stuff. You know, it's not as direct for Vander, but Powder is slightly the cause of it. But this causes a rift that is then extended through Silco finding a crying Powder because Vi has to go off and, you know, kind of chill out. But then she's taken by an enforcer. So now it seems like they are separated and Powder is under Silco's control now. She doesn't think that Vi is her sister anymore. So they're going to split up. So while kind of a sad conclusion to that first act, that ends off our kind of setup that we get with Act 1 of Season 1. The sisters are broken up already, so it's ready to give them some different paths to go down. Our villain has kind of won already, so conflicts are going to only get worse in the Undercity as well as between Topside and the Undercity, and the rift between the two cities is just going to grow more. Hextech is now going to make a stand as well as Shimmer, and you know, there's a whole lot. It's a great start to the whole series, and just it crushes it, hooks you in from the beginning. Okay, Act 2. 2. We jump forward around 6 or 7 years, according to the creators of the show. Our characters have progressed off screen, and different systems have kind of gotten in place because of Hextech and Shimmer. Hextech is now in full swing, being used as the main system of transportation and trade routes across the continent through the Hex Gate, which is kind of like a teleportation device. Silco is in charge of the underground, and Shimmer is running rampant through the streets. Powder is no longer Powder. Her name is now Jinx, because of what Vi called her at the end of Act 1, called her a Jinx, because everything goes wrong around her, and is essentially Silco's adoptive daughter. So Silco kind of replaced Vander for Jinx in particular. Conflicts have been growing between Topside and the Undercity, like I had said, and there are several groups all kind of playing into this. Silco and his people, like the whole Undercity gang members. You have the Enforcers, who are paid by Silco. They're just like dirty cops. And the Firelights, who are an underground rebellion trying to also fight back against Topside, the Enforcers, as well as Silco and his goons. It's a whole crazy thing. Vi also comes back, not till episode 2, though. You see a very quick glimpse at the end of episode 1, but she's in prison, so you don't really see her until the second episode when she gets released by Caitlyn. But she comes back. She's a badass boxer woman now, ready to kick ass, take some names, and wreak havoc. And she definitely does. It's a great time. Everyone is essentially sort of in their prime state right now. Like, they are all pretty confident. They've grown a whole lot, and they all feel pretty good in their standing right now. And it seems like that everything seems very plausible with the progression. We saw in Act 1 that Vi had like some good boxing experience. Powder was really good with her gadgets and like that whole range of things. So it kind of just naturally progresses. And like, even though there's been a time jump, you're like, well, yeah, that makes sense why they would push that even further. And with Hextech, we can also see that with Jace and Victor, since they're working on some new projects. They want to bring Hextech to the people, to give it in the hands of everybody, to make life easier. And naturally, after the success of the last act, they should. And as far as story goes, we also get a bit of that confrontation here between Vi and Jinx and the importance that Hextech is going to play into the city. First, we'll talk about Vi and Jinx. Neither of them have really left each other's minds since their time apart at the end of Act 1. Jinx didn't think Vi was alive, so is kind of haunted by these visions of her, whereas Vi knows that Jinx is still alive, but still thinks of her as her young sister, Powder. Very rude awakening for Vi when they eventually meet back up, and they're a little bit different. And Jinx also feels replaced, as Vi was recruited by an enforcer to track her down because she stole a Hextech gem. And so she thinks that it's not really because it's her sister, but rather just a job for her, and feels kind of betrayed. And for this first season, I feel like this is such a great conflict as we get more into Jinx's madness. Even though things could be fine, the years of change really just weigh on her. She feels abandoned, she feels alone, and she feels betrayed when she eventually sees Vi, or she feels betrayed by Silco or Savika, feeling like they're lying to her, didn't know that Vi was still alive. There's a whole lot of things. And like I said, we also have the progression of Hextech, though with such rapid power, things also can get a little bit dangerous. And like Jinx stole the gemstone, which is not great for the Topside, because now there's a Undercity person, there's a Zonite with a very magical, powerful weapon, and kind of crazy. But currently it is mainly like the political side of it that's getting a little bit more dangerous, because they want to use it in different ways, but they are supposed to be using them for the people. They want to make devices like a mining gauntlet or a hex claw that they call it, has a laser that is supposed to kind of help make things easier for people in the fissures, which is like their mining area within Zon. And that stuff is great, but getting the gemstones stolen kind of makes an underlying problem fester that we will eventually get to discuss more in season 2 because of all this interference with the Arcane stuff. But hold on, we got one more act to talk about in season 1. So now we're nearing the end of season 1, and holy shit, so much stuff happens during this period, and it made the 3 years after the first season just brutal because we all wanted to know the aftermath. We wanted to know more of the story, and oh my gosh, there was so much. But we'll talk about that in just a second because we have to get to the end of Act 3 first. So Act 3, Vi realizes that Jinx isn't really the sister she knew. Victor is dying and is creating a hex core to try and create some adaptive magic to heal himself. Jace is a counselor, which did happen in the last act, but right now he's a lot more focused on that, and he's trying to push more for different things, which I think is good. Jinx realizes that everyone around her is kind of gray, and she's a very black and white person, and it's not giving her what she wants. Oh my gosh, there's just so much to talk about. It's crazy. And the show wastes no time. There is no filler. It's fantastic. They show what they need and then move on. I love it so much. That's been a complaint with the most recent season, that a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, they just wrap things up so fast. There was no filler episodes. That's how you know the show is so good, is that people are complaining that there's no filler episodes. Okay, the pacing's great. You just really want more content. I get it. I really want more content, but I feel like they're wrapping things up fantastically. But that's for season 2. So, Hextech. Jace wants to take down Shimmer because it's really just messing with the underground. And Vi decides to help out because she's from the underground. And it's really that she convinces Jace to finally do something about the criminal practices that are going on. And this is where some exciting weapons get shown off with Jace's hammer and Vi's gauntlets, which are awesome, and both powered by Hextech, making them very incredibly powerful. And this is also where Jace learns the real danger of the power he holds. The Arcane is kind of something you don't necessarily want to mess with, because he accidentally kills a Zonite child just trying to fight off some Shimmer monsters. After this, Vi goes off because she realizes that Topside doesn't have the guts to do any of the hard things to actually fix anything in Zon. So she takes the gauntlets and was like, I'm going to take them anyways. What are you going to do about it? Okay, we can fight for it. And Jace doesn't want to do that. So she goes to do that and feels like she can get some good with it done. She takes down Savika, absolutely destroys her in such an awesome scene. It's one of my favorite fights throughout the series. It's so fun. But then she's kidnapped by Jinx, and don't worry, we're going to circle around to that. Give me a second. Okay, there's a lot to talk about. And then Victor is creating his little hex core and really messing with the Arcane. That's when things kind of go a little crazy. He's messing with the organic matter and stuff, because organic matter mixed with the Arcane does a whole lot, because it's just very reactive, wild. And he even gets some Shimmer for himself because he has like a limp and stuff and a disease. So he wants to try and bring the two powers together to try and heal himself a little bit. And it starts to turn his body more into machine, which we eventually see later in the series. I'm telling you, season 2, so much stuff happens. So just hold your horses. We're going to get there. Okay. Jinx is also really going through it. She reflects on her life, her time with Silco, if he has been using her or actually cares for her, especially as he is offered the city to break off into its own nation of Zon if he were to hand Jinx over. So that kind of puts a little bit of a conflict right there. And Jinx really wants her sister back, but Vi is also with an enforcer, so, that's a member of the group that killed their parents. doesn't necessarily feel great about that. And she doesn't feel cared for by Topside because they've been oppressing them forever. Why should any of that matter? And at the end of this act, we just get this final confrontation between Jinx, Vi, Caitlyn, and Silco. While at the same time, the counselors of Piltover are voting on annexing Zaun and giving them their independence. At first, they're like, whoa, that's a little bit crazy, but eventually it gets there. During this confrontation, Jinx tries to learn how much Vi still cares for her, if she is still her sister, but is very much thinking of it in that black and white manner, because that's how Jinx's character is. And she kind of stays that way most of the season most of the series, but it eventually starts developing within season 2 to be a bit more gray, because that's just how people are. People aren't always one side or the other. It's going to be a little bit in the middle, but Jinx is not really that way. And I think that's just due to her mental state. It just puts her in one way or the other. So like Vi can still care for her as a sister, but Jinx doesn't understand why she also cares about Caitlyn. Silco is also trying to convince her that he's the only one that cares about her. All of this is, causing Jinx to be a little bit crowded in her mind and make some really rash decisions, like shooting at Silco. Whoa, that was something I did not see coming, because he goes to shoot Vi, which I did see coming, but Jinx, in like a matter of instinct, shoots him. And this is the breaking point. This is where everything goes wrong. And so when Jinx does this, she realizes the vastness of what is in front of her. Having to constantly choose, everything trying to come to a balanced medium, despite that, well, she doesn't really want to be a part of that, and decides that she can't really get what she wants or doesn't know how to process things, she's just going to throw it all into chaos. So she takes the gemstone that she stole earlier in the season, puts it into a like rocket launcher, and launches a arcane powered rocket to the capital of Piltover. And the last shot we see is it hitting the glass with the counselors inside, and boom, that's the end of the season. I'm sure I'm describing it in the most terrible way to really fully appreciate it, because normally I feel like I can analyze these types of things. However, it's like I just have to talk about it because it's so good and so interesting talking about the story, because it's awesome. Ready to be expanded on 3 years later, which sucked, because I remember when it came out, every episode came out and everyone wanted a new season already, but it hadn't been greenlit yet. They knew they wanted to make it, but they hadn't been able to start producing it yet. Oh, which was so sad, because everyone wanted that show, and we were all just waiting. But eventually we got it. So we'll talk about season 2 in just a second. But I really like this 3-act structure that Arcane uses, because while it's very typical to use in media in general, I like that they very much focus on it, and they focus so much on the structure, because I think they knew that it was going to be so short that using that 3-act structure can allow them to be very concise and know what they want to tell without dragging on too long. And I think it's just magnificent. It's such perfect storytelling. It's great. The resolution is also going to be the beginning for the next part of the story, and then you have their full setup, and then you get their confrontation, and then the resolution for that one leads into the next part. Oh my gosh, and it just keeps going until the very end when it's all finally wrapped up. Oh, it's so good. So let's get into that final bit with season 2. So obviously, spoiler warning for Arcane season 2. If you're this far, you probably should have seen all the series already. Just saying, this is your only warning. But we pick up immediately in Act 1 of Season 2 after the events of Season 1. It's like the first scene is the council is hit by Jinx's attack. Half of the counselors are dead. Like, it's just most gruesome. It's not like gory, but it is like dark. That it's like these counselors are just dead. And everyone's just, it's all gone crazy. The only ones unscathed are Jace and Mel Medarda. And you learn a little bit more about that, about why later. And it's very confusing to Jace because right next to him is Victor, who, he had a disease and he was kind of frail, and he nearly dies. And he's like, bro, why the heck did this happen? So Jace has to go and help him, and he takes him back to their lab and he fuses him with the hex core and gets into this little comatose cocoon. But after this attack, among the other topsiders, Vi is now with them through Caitlyn, fully against Jinx now, believing that there isn't really much of powder left. So it's kind of just, we're against her now. So we're just going to have to fight. And that's kind of the circumstances that have been given. So she joins up with the enforcers, despite some hesitation, for a very special task force to hunt down Jinx, dismantle Shimmer, and restore peace to Zaun. I can't remember the exact words they were saying, which a lot of people, Vi included, feel very conflicted about, as the enforcers killed the sister's parents and have tormented the Undercity for years. So why would Vi, an Undercity, like a Zaunite, be a part of it? It's a good question. So things get a little bit crazy. This is also where Caitlyn's internalized hatred for the Undercity starts to surface and manifest itself a little bit more externally. As we go through this first act, she gets more snappy towards Vi and the other Zaunites, and she's just more on edge. She's just very rash very quickly. And eventually she completely ditches Vi to become the general of Piltover under martial law after a final face-off between Jinx, Savika, Vi, and Caitlyn. And Vi refuses to let Caitlyn put a child, Isha is her name, in danger. When she has a chance to try and kill Jinx, there's a child in the way, and Vi is like, no, we can't do that. That's not okay. And so that kind of draws the line between them a little bit. Jinx also has this very interesting moment in this act, kind of starting in this act, where she becomes a bit of a symbol among the Undercity. At first, she is wanted by Topside, but most of the Undercity, aside for some, don't really want to turn her over. They don't really feel like that's great. It's like betraying their own kind, essentially. And after losing Silco, she kind of wanders a little aimlessly, kind of staying under the under the radar a little bit. But she saves Isha from a group of thugs and kind of follows Silco's lead and becomes that adoptive parent, which manifests itself more in the next act. You see a lot of it there. And while the sister drama is going on, which the final fight is so awesome, by the way, especially with the To Ashes and Blood song. Oh my gosh, it's so good. The visuals and the fight choreography, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But anyways, while that stuff is going down, some weird hex tech stuff is going on. Victor wakes up from his coma, a lot more machine than man now, fused with the Arcane, and he leaves to do his own thing, and with his newfound power, becomes Jesus. That's right. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit more later. But with Jace, we also see him meet up with Echo and Heimerdinger. Again, as something is affecting the Firelight tree in the Undercity. So it's like their source of fresh air down there. And Echo's a little concerned because they've been seeing these wild runes. And this is due to the overuse of hex tech. They're kind of abusing the Arcane a little bit. And I love how this all culminates together. Characters that you wouldn't fully expect to actually meet up and interact, they do, and it shows that there is just a bunch of different stories going on, and they're all intertwined in this like web, and I love it. It's a great time for me. And with this piece of it in particular, you get to see more at the end of this act in such a beautiful sequence, because to investigate more of the wild runes, they go to the base of the hex gate where there's this fail safe. If anything wrong were to happen, that's kind of where things would get fixed. However, this kind of gets Echo mad because it's like right by what supplies the water and the venting to the Undercity. So he's kind of mad, understandably, because it's near his home if something were to go wrong. Jace tries to explain the safety, but the wild arcane rune is shown on this like weird little orb type thing. And while the fight between the 4 girls is going down, the Arcane is making these hex tech weapons act up, and anything hex related is all getting weird. It's all freaking out. It's glitching around, further supporting this interconnected web between the whole world. And right at the end, the Arcane acts up, and Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger disappear. They're gone. And the girls, you get this smog from the fissures that is released by Jinx, and it's like all this building up. It all gets a little bit crazy. So the boys all disappear, and then the fissures are let loose, and then they set up another attack on top side, like blowing up bombs around the city. And this is what kind of sets off the martial law that I was talking about earlier. And just, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, this 3-act setup is great, because this is a perfect setup for stuff to happen in the rest of the season. Oh, it's so good. And that's what we're going to talk about next. On to Act 2 in Season 2. And very much like in Season 1, a bit of time has passed since the first act. Not a lot. It's not like the same amount of time. But like it doesn't really say. But there's like speculation, it's probably like a few months, 6 months maybe, so some stuff has kind of changed. Like I said, the end of the last act ended off with Caitlyn serving as the general under Ambessa, with Ambessa under martial law, on the hunt for Jinx and to control Zahn. Jinx has been in hiding with Isha while Savika is trying to kind of clean up and organize the underground a little bit. And interestingly enough, Jinx has made that full symbol transition. She doesn't really do anything of it and doesn't really care about it. But because of her attacks against Topside, everyone looks to her kind of as a symbol of freedom against the elites of Piltover. She is also much more motherly now. She has fully accepted that kind of adoptive parent role towards Isha. However, kind of more acting like a sister, at least to her, but definitely feeling kind of like a mom for Isha. Caring for her, being her role model, kind of hilarious because she's kind of whack and, kills people all the time. But Jinx does better with Isha, so we get some cute little moments with them, which is great. Jinx has just become a role model, and Isha really likes that, and even eventually tries to inspire a rally in the underground, kind of in a Jinx disguise, and, kind of even shows herself, and she has blue hair and stuff, and it's clear that she really likes Jinx. It's kind of great. But what ends up happening is during this rally that is going on, Topside raids and takes Isha and some other Zahnites and arrests them and takes them to prison. And this freaks out Jinx. So she goes to mainly save Isha, but she decides to save everybody. Wild. And during this breakout, we have a crazy development. Okay? Wild. A monster named Warwick, created by the same doctor that invented Shimmer. His name is Dr. Revik. That might be how you pronounce his name. But Warwick is going to break him out. He's like fueled by his blood or whatever. He smells it, and so he's going to get him out. And while Jinx is there releasing everybody else, Warwick arrives. So obviously it's going to confront her because she's kind of in his way. And in this blood-fueled rage, Warwick is going crazy, and Jinx goes to make like a sacrifice play to save Savika and Isha. But Warwick pauses for a second. He smells and hears her heartbeat and realizes that it's powder. That's right. Realizes it's powder. Not Jinx. Powder. How would he know it's powder? Well, because it's Vander. Crazy. I did not expect that. This is what happens when I don't know any League of Legends lore. And that's okay. But that's right. It's freaking crazy. The sister's adoptive father is alive. That's right. The sister's adoptive father is now alive and fused with this wolf-esque monster. An absolutely crazy development. Okay. Did not see it coming. So after finding this out, Jinx goes to her boxing champion sister, Creed, to tell her that Vander is alive. Naturally, that would probably be the craziest thing you'd ever hear in your life when you know they're dead. But Vi just decides to go along with it just because, and they find Vander again, and Vi realizes that it actually is him, and they have the sweetest family reunion. Oh my gosh, it's so cute, so sweet to see them all together again. Hopefully, nothing goes wrong. But of course, since Vander is in this monster, he isn't really all there. So they go to see Jesus and try to clear up his mind. Victor wants to help bring Vander back, and he's kind of been using his arcane power now with the Hex Core to try and heal people. And he believes Vander is worth the risk to use up his power. So he tries to help. However, when this is happening, and Bessa and Caitlyn, they're looking for Warwick because he could be a useful weapon in this coming war. And this causes a fight to break out. Things go a little bit crazy. Oh, and meanwhile, Jace is back from literal hell. We'll talk about that in a second. And boom, he kills Jesus. No. So when that happens, since Victor was essentially now a physical part of all his followers and also Warwick now, they all lose it. And Warwick in particular goes extra nuts due to the shimmer in his body, keeping his animalistic half alive. So Vander's not really in there anymore. It's just Warwick, and he goes into this fueled rage. This puts everyone in danger, and in the twist I didn't see coming, Isha decides to save everybody in the most badass yet most heartbreaking way I've ever watched. This little girl, she nabs Jinx's Hextech gun, essentially, takes more than one gemstone because she stole them from Vi's gauntlets, overloads the thing. Everyone's losing it. Jinx realizes what is happening as Isha is just running towards Warwick while we have this beautiful watercolored scene of flashbacks of memories of Isha and Jinx together. And then Isha gets to Warwick. She does this little cute thing of when she first met Jinx, the aims the gun up, boom, gone. And the act is over. So, that was the most depressing week for all Arcane fans waiting for that last act to know what happened. It was so sad. Oh my gosh, it was so much. But that's Act 2. So let's get on to the last little bit. Okay, so now that everyone has cried from the loss of Isha, let's make them cry again with the first episode of the last act. Episode 7 of Season 2 is probably the best episode in television ever. The show in general is best TV ever. Not just animated shows, best TV. This is probably the best episode ever. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so beautiful. And there's so much that happens. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. First off, I said Jace came back from literal hell. Yeah, I wasn't really joking. So when Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger disappeared from that wild arcane anomaly at the end of Act 1, they were scattered across time. Yeah, time travels in this show. Okay, crazy. Jace got sent into the future where he was the only one alive now. It was this desolate wasteland full of these humanoid statues. He kind of slowly loses his mind being by himself and eventually makes his way to the top of the destroyed Hex Gate where everything kind of seems to emanate from. That's where all the destruction seems to have been centered. There, he finds himself in the same state as the other statue, just in this little like kneeling position against his hammer. And so that was Jace's little homelessness arc and, going a little bit crazy, and it will come back in just a bit. On the other side of things, Echo and Heimerdinger are not only at a different point in time, they are also in a different reality. Yeah, the multiverse is also a thing in the show. Mainly, it's like a diverged timeline, essentially, where Zahn is now actually a pretty nice place. Echo is an inventor, and he is dating Powder. Wow. Which throws him and everybody else for a loop, because we did not expect that. In this world, Vi died on that first heist that we kind of talked about at the very beginning, where they were trying to steal some Hextech weapons. Not Hextech weapons, just some like Arcane crystals, because it was kind of crazy. But because of that, she dies in this world, and so Hextech doesn't exist, which makes it kind of hard for Echo and Heimerdinger to get back home, because the runes are not really a thing. But this is where we get to see the really genius power of Echo and his time stuff. Clearly, we've kind of been shown he is very smart and adaptable in the first season, but in this we get to see his process a lot more, which I think is really fun. Like, he's just going for it, even if there's such a slight chance that he can do something. It's never zero, and so he's going to push for it, and I think that's great. And he even falls in love with this reality's Powder, because she's like so helpful and also very smart, like very innovative, like how Jinx is in the main reality, and just wants to help him a lot. And oh my gosh, they're just falling in love. They have this sweet little dance sequence, but Echo, being the king that he is, he follows Powder's advice. She says this line that move forward, sometimes you have to leave a few things behind. And while he could live such a great life here, he decides he has to leave it behind in order to save his reality. So he manages to invent a time loop so that can send him back to his reality. But upon trying to use it, things go a little bit wrong. So Heimerdinger sacrifices himself in order to send Echo back. We're losing everybody in this episode. They have like this dance sequence just has like such good music that even if you don't know the words, because I think it's in French, it's just beautifully well done and the tone is there. So you can just tell it's like these two characters cherishing the moment. Oh my gosh. It's literally best episode ever. It's so good. It's such a good piece of television. I love it. But yeah, anyways, now that we've cried again at the loss of this very happy reality, now we're back in the main reality. So we get the aftermath of Jace killing Victor. Jinx surrendered herself after getting Vi to safety because she's kind of been wanted for things, but with the loss of Isha, she's kind of in a rut. Mel is back, Mel Medarda, and is now a full-blown mage. Awesome. Love that. Apparently she was just kind of born with those powers, and she just uses them in very fun ways, as we see later in this act, which I really like, because I feel like a lot of magic nowadays just gets chalked up to lasers being shot at each other, which I mean, that's fine, but I like when they're used in really creative ways. And so this I kind of liked. Like, it's not like the most it's not like Doctor Strange where he's like conjuring different things, but it is being used to like conjure shields or send out blasts, like typical fantasy mage type stuff, which I think is great. But anyways, everyone is gearing up for war with the Noxians and Victor. Yeah, I know I said Jace killed Victor, but psych, he's still alive. Warwick's Apex Shimmer blood is being used to power him up into what he calls the glorious evolution. And this is where he begins to transform his followers into those kind of statuesque creatures. They're like this hive mind machine. That's freaking crazy. And he creates like this machine like husk around himself as well. Meanwhile, the rest of Piltover is preparing Hextech to fight against that coming army from Victor and the Noxians, using the Hexgate as a cannon, which is friggin' wicked. Like they're not using the Hexgate specifically, but they're using the same kind of technology to do so. Caitlyn gets an updated gun, and Vi is still with her gauntlets, but she, she kills it with that. Jinx also gets out of prison, and due to the loss of Isha, she really doesn't want to stick around. She does want to end her life. Doesn't believe she can provide anything now, as the thing that she was living for is no longer with her. But Echo comes back and talks her out of it. He realizes that he let Jinx down, just kind of letting her go off with Silco in the last season. And so he kind of appeals to her more caring side that had come out with Isha. And that's kind of like a little beautiful moment as well, where he's kind of reversing time to keep her from blowing herself up or jumping off a ledge. Okay. We then get that final war. We see the upgraded soldiers that Victor has provided to the Noxians, and Bessa with a rune shield to protect herself while laying waste as much as she can. We get a huge betrayal from an enforcer that we thought was on the good side, Maddie, and then everyone cheers because she dies, because Mel, right as Maddie's about to shoot Caitlyn, she does this like shield sphere, and ricochets and kills Maddie, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, yes, let's go, traitor. But Caitlyn and Mel then go up against Ambessa. The enforcers are losing against the machines. All seems lost. Everyone's on their low, and then we get the coldest entrance from Jinx and Echo riding their own hot air balloon to bombard the Noxian army with bombs and bringing Zonites with them to fight. And the best part about this is that we've been shown that Zon is very chaotic. Piltover tries to be all balanced and calm and like an organized kind of area. And the Noxians are really used to that. That's the kind of armies they fight. But the Zonites are all just chaos. They're not really organized, and the Noxians have no idea how to fight it. And I love that we've been shown that, and it's not just told to us. And so when Zon comes and is just crushing it, it's awesome. I love it. It's so good. And we also get this final showdown between Jace and Victor. Jace trying to convince Victor that everyone deserves their free will and not to complete this glorious evolution that he talks about, where everyone kind of becomes one. Victor gets the upper hand, but Echo comes in again with his killer time loop stuff and bombards Victor with an anomaly that kind of breaks Jace free to really help Victor see what happened in the future and how it was him that first introduced Jace to the Arcane when he was very young. He was like this mage that showed up. They disappear, and I'm assuming to just go off and do their own thing. That doesn't really say that they died, but that's kind of what it seems like, that they've maybe been pushed off into a different reality or something. Meanwhile, Jinx and Vi were fighting a machined up Warwick, and Jinx, in kind of a pretty expected turn, but you're kind of hoping for it not to be, she makes the sacrifice play to save Vi, and it makes sense for her character to have this redemption act of truly saving someone she cared about, breaking the cycle of death that happens to her loved ones and sacrificing herself. During this, there's an explosion, and people have like very hyper analyzed the frames and see this pink streak go off, and they're pretty sure it's Jinx from the shimmer, but it's not explicitly stated to us, so it's kind of left open-ended a little bit for any future series that they do. But we just get this beautiful ending with everyone in Piltover and Zahn on the bridge burning paper to represent those that they've lost. You have an airship floating away, kind of representing that closure. You have Caitlin and Vi together now, which I don't know entirely how I feel, but it very much works for the series. Echo's by himself, kind of thinking about the people that he's lost, and like Heimerdinger, that's who we're pretty sure that he put on the paper. A new council with Zahn now included. It's just such a perfect end to the series. Some people don't really like it, so we'll kind of wrap that up with our final thoughts. Not everyone did like how the season wrapped up, but I disagree with a lot of them, as I think while it doesn't give everybody the most happiest of endings, like we did lose a lot. It was war, and a lot happens in war, and that's kind of why this season almost feels like a lot is happening all at once. I feel like the pacing is just fine because of the circumstances, and while it doesn't give everybody a happy ending, it does give an answer to everything and closes off the story. While other things could happen in this world, this is just one story, the story of Piltover and Zahn. And that, I think, is just perfectly ended, where it's closed and you kind of get that closure in the end. I feel like a lot of shows, I'm like, oh, I could get more out of this. And I could technically feel like I could get more from Arcane. But I also have that feeling where I'm like, this is done. The series is done. We'll get more stuff in their world, but this specific story, it's come to a close. And while I want more Arcane because it was just such a good show, it's ended. It has an ending, and I want it to stay that way. And I think it's just great. And it's why I think this show is just so perfect. It's such a well-contained story. It's so rewatchable. It's amazing. The story is incredible. The technical aspects of the animation are beautiful. It's like the most expensive animated show ever made, which makes sense because they wanted it to be like watching an animated movie as a TV show and not just like a usual TV show budget. It just goes beyond your typical thoughts of what an animated show can be. And for that, I think it's amazing. But speaking of amazing, we got to talk about our rating, and I'll give you our rating score, and it's very obvious which one Arcane falls into. From least to best, it is garbage, once is fine, right mood, quotable, go to, and all day, every day. And of course, Arcane is at all day, every day. It's such a good show. I could watch it all day, every day. While season 2 was coming out, I watched the entire series 3 times. Okay? I was ready for this show. It's an all day, every day for me. I could watch it all day, every day. There's literally everything's perfect about it. It's amazing. I love it so much. If for some wild reason you haven't watched it and you've been watching this video, 1, you're crazy because I've spoiled everything for you. 2, you need to go watch it right now. If you've already watched it, go watch it again because it's that good. It's just such a good show. And that is all for this week's episode of Easily Entertained. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and a follow so you can be notified of all the latest episodes as they come out every Tuesday. Usually. If you have any thoughts that you'd like to include or entertainment that you'd like to see me talk about in the future, comment down below. But until next time, bye.